intros, and I'm going to ask everyone to just, why are you here? Real quick. Go around the room and say who we are and why we're here. If you don't know, that's okay too. I'll start. How about that? Because I was looking for something a little more deep than just, I'm here because I represent this group and we're talking about student assignment and things that are important, but bigger picture, longer term, why I'm here. I'm Gay Adelman. I'm co-founder of Dear JCPS and Save Our Schools Kentucky, and I serve on the board of the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. And my son graduated from the Academy at Shawnee, and the reason I'm here is because I want to dismantle white supremacy in institutions such as our public school system. That's the kind of big picture why we're here question I was trying to ask. So I was using that as an example. Let's go around the room. I see a couple more people have come in, but we're doing introductions now. And so let's just go around the room and have everybody introduce yourself and say why you're here. Yvonne, I'll start with you next.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Rivera. I teach Spanish in elementary school. I'm a JCTA member and a member of Save Our Schools Kentucky and a member of the Alliance Education Committee. So I usually am here 4 o'clock on a Mondays. But the big why is I got extraordinarily lucky, and I was a poor kid in a rich school, and it totally changed my life. And that should be available to every child in America.
All right. Next up, Greg. I'm going to put you on the spot next, since I know you're a regular.
Sure. Greg Titchener, a long-term member of the Alliance Education Committee and representative for Louisville, showing up for racial justice on the Alliance Board, member of Sowers of Justice and other community social justice groups. And I'm here because I'm baffled by how we are still struggling to find a collective way forward. There seems to be so many intersections between collective labor and racial justice, and I'm interested in finding paths forward. And I'll throw it, is Kumar still on? I'll throw it over to Kumar.
I'm going to mute my phone and you guys keep going.
Hey y'all, I'm back and forth between 2 meetings right now, but I'm still got one there on the line right now. It's Kumar Rashad, JCTA, all around the way, everywhere you can in order to get freedom for our peoples. Just here, just seeing about the educational conversation going on in the community, and also representing Sowers of Justice as well, and just want to just stay plugged into community conversations around education, especially.
Awesome. Melanie. Hi, welcome. You want to say who you are and why you're here?
Well, here because of we need to organize and do, what we're trying to do, and dealing with what's best for our kids, our families, our students, our families, and using our numbers to make a difference politically.
Awesome. Chris Harmer.
Yeah, Chris Harmer, long-time member of the Ed Committee of the Alliance, also chair of Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools, and I agree. We want to make sure we get as many groups on the same page as possible, and then move.
Randy.
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. I'm Randy Week, and my main concern for the past few years has been the theft of the teacher's pension, since that affects not only some 120 to 30,000 teachers, active and retired, but the entire state economy. And I think that's evidenced in the fact that the number one priority seems to be for this upcoming short legislative session to undercut what is left of the teacher's retirement. If it weren't so important, I don't think they would have taken it up in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, when we have many more important problems to worry about than that. So Gay invited me to this, and I'm friends with Yvonne from Represent Us. And that is why I'm at this meeting.
Glad you could join us. Liv Bowler.
Hey everybody, my name is Liv. I am a student at DuPont Manual. I'm a senior this year and I'm a reporter on Manual Red Eye. The reason that I am here is because a lot of the issues that we talk about, in fact, I think all of the issues that we talk about are about the students in JCPS, and I think that it's important that one of us is here to give you our opinions and to represent the students.
You couldn't agree more. All right, welcome everybody and thank you for sharing. The items on the agenda, we've got 3 main topics. Does anybody have anything they want to add to that list before we get started? We've got student assignment, we've got the General Assembly for 2021, and then we've got the Jcta elections coming up.
I don't know if it falls under new business, Gay, but I'd like to maybe get some community input for Human and Civil Rights Committee is deciding on our next racial justice topic. Still, we've got a couple out there, and I'd like to get some feedback from the group that's here, if I could.
Am I writing this down right? Community feedback for human rights. Is that what you said? Human rights?
Human and Civil Rights Committee of JCTA. Racial Justice Subcommittee, just to make it confusing.
I'll put that there for now, and you can correct it if it needs to be. So one of the things that I wanted to just off the top, I am recording this Zoom call. We've been recording all of our coalition meeting calls and posting them on a website just to be as transparent as possible about the conversations that take place, and so that people who miss a meeting or come late or want to get caught up, you know, are just now joining us and maybe want to get caught up to the progress and how we got to this point. Those are all accessible. But also for the next 5 weeks between now and January 15th, when the JCPS Board of Education is expected to vote on the student assignment proposal, the proposed changes to student assignment, Latasha Harrison and I met with Dr. Polio and Renee Murphy last week. And one of the suggestions was, since they still haven't made it possible for the public to speak at board meetings, I suggested that we solicit 3-minute videos from the community and have a centralized location where we can upload and make it possible not only for the board members to view these videos with community feedback, but also let the public hear what other members of the public have to say, because that's how we brainstorm. That's how we build on each other's ideas and take into consideration our, maybe some blind spots that we hadn't been aware of. Greg and I were talking this morning about, the new proposed changes risk resegregating our schools, and we don't really want to create a scenario where we're just going back and forth between one bad scenario and another. Brown versus Board of Education ruled that separate is inherently not equal. So we don't want to go back to the pre-Brown v. Board days. What we want to do is take the best of both and come up with a new scenario, a third scenario that is better than anything we've ever had. And the only way we can do that is to collectively brainstorm community feedback. So Dr. Polio liked that idea, and sorry, I'm just moving my screen around to make sure I don't have anybody trying to get in. Dr. Polio seemed to like that idea, but we only have 5 weeks, and so one of the venues that I would like to do this in is just make it accessible every Monday from 4 to whenever the demand dissipates. Be ready to record people's feedback. And so this is really our first one where this is the intent, one of the intents of the meeting. So if you've got something that you want to make sure gets included in whatever that video compilation looks like, then, you know, let's have a few moments to discuss and share whatever that feedback looks like. And then as the weeks go by, being that it's holidays and it's going to be hit or miss with people being able to attend our meetings anyway, I'll just continue to host this time. And if people come and want to share their feedback about student assignment, we'll have a dedicated portion of every meeting where that's what we do. And because we have other business on the agenda, perhaps we save that for the end. But for today's call, since it's number 1 on the agenda, I'd like to go ahead and open it up for that type of feedback and discussion. And then if it looks like there's going to be a long, ongoing discussion, we can ask to save the rest for the end. But hopefully everybody's familiar with what the proposed changes are, and we can just open it up right now to have some dialogue around that. Does anybody want to go first? All right, let me do it a different way. Let's go around the room and ask if anybody, what are your thoughts? Does anyone have any thoughts about the proposed changes to student assignment, and what are your primary concerns that you want to make sure the board is aware of?
I think this new plan is an opportunity. If we start creating schools we've done it okay, let me try to start at the beginning. We have done this in the past. You know, there are people in this city, and I exaggerate about this much, who would slit somebody's throat to get into manual and mail. You know, it doesn't matter where those schools were located. You could put them anywhere you want, and the stilettos will come out. So we've done this. We've created schools that generate demand. And if we do this right, we can do this again. Where, you know, somebody who lives in the California neighborhood does not have to go out to Middletown, but still can if they want to, you know? Maybe Eastern is all that in a bag of chips for them. Go you. But not done right, as you pointed out, we're just repealing Brown. So I think we need to be thinking about having a high school Montessori. You know, Westport Middle had trouble attracting students until they added the Montessori. You know, my students at Wilder used to almost universally go to Cameron. That is no longer true. It's evenly split with kids going to Westport because they want that Montessori, where there is no high school Montessori. And people who like Montessori really love Montessori. There's a lot to recommend it. So if you had a Montessori high school, you know, you'd be creating a really great program. This is a chance to make up for the sins of mopping.
Doesn't Central have a Montessori program?
I didn't think so, but maybe they do. You know, and Central has so many magnets. What's up with that? Just share a little of the wealth then. I mean, they've got the vet magnet, the medical magnet, the finance magnet, the law magnet, that thing that they have with KFC, I don't even know what kind of magnet that is. And those are just the ones I can think of. Dental, how could I forget dental? So, I'll shut up now.
So I see Melanie has her hand raised. We can go ahead and go to you, Melanie. Or is that Kumar? Oh wait, that's Kumar. Sorry.
Yeah, it's me with my hand raised. Let me
I gotta learn my
lower.
way around Zoom still. Sorry about that.
That's all good, guys. That's all good. Yeah, yeah, thank you, Yvonne. I agree with you 100%. I think yeah, it's gonna be a real big problem. I mean, you know, looking at the student assignment plan, we got to look for that equity. We got to look for that equity where people are traveling from the west to the east and east to the west, and it's not just one sided as it is. But I think that there's a concern in there, like for me right now, is that I see that the student assignment has tried to do a little bit more as far as making that a little bit balanced. But the biggest issue for me is that it's balanced in a world where there are no schools. I mean, it's you know, it's predicated upon the fact that we're going to build schools. So as for like the right now, my biggest concern is for the waiting game all the way up until the schools are built. You know, it's just still going to be this perpetual problem that we're dealing with. And this hypothetical is going to be better when every school is going to be put in the city. So that's a real hard thing to really look at it and definitely to be concerned about. I think that we've got to look at this. There was another point. I just lost my train of thought. Just come back to me. I'll be back to it.
All right. I see Greg has his hand up.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern is that we've twisted our current education system and JCPS up to the point where a lot of the voice to move back toward Brown versus Board of Education is coming from our West End community. And there's a lot of reason for that. It's why I keep sending my child out to East End schools where there's so much cultural abrasion with teachers, with administration, with students from East End. And there's legitimate concern there. And so I'm concerned that there's a lot of moving parts in education and moving forward. If we are adapting this plan, I think, one, we need to be looking at percentages and try to minimize a step back, which is what I see us moving toward Brown versus Education. But I think we need to be very intentional about providing those wraparound services and finding ways to staff schools in the West End and provide support services that build communities and grow healthy kids much more than what we've got now.
That's right. Definitely provide more support to these schools, because I know that you know, to me, I feel like Brown versus the Board of Education was like the worst thing that ever happened to Black schools. I mean, yeah, we talk about segregation or separation or whichever version that we want to do, but you know, really before Brown versus Board of Education, there were Black schools that really had Black curriculums and had Black teachers that really cared for these kids. And that's what we really need. So we don't need segregation because that's just one person telling me that I need to be separated from you because they have authority over me. That's not the point. The point is that we definitely need to make sure that our home schools, if we're giving people an opportunity to choose a school closest to themselves, that we make sure that these schools are are the highest of quality, you know, that we're mixing around numbers. And because you know, the biggest things is that we have all of these expectations, and that's you know, we have all of these expectations, but when we don't make our expectations realistic, we all get lost. And that's the same thing as having a completely Black school, Black principal, all the way down to the, you know, Black student, janitor, parent, everybody in that school being Black. But if that school is built off of a curriculum that is anti-Black, or is built off of a system that is anti-Black, that doesn't support Black culture, then that school ain't really Black, no matter how many Black people are in there. You see? So we've got to really change the culture as far as these curriculums. We got to still keep pushing these curriculums to reflect our culture. That's what we got to keep pushing that for. You know, you know, me and Natalie, we working right now. We working really hard, you know, just to work on ways of getting people to get more representation in this society. You know, because this is, Black people want what everybody else want. We want democracy. And democracy comes from freedom, justice, equity, and representation. And as I say all the time, you can't have freedom, you can't have justice, you can't have equity unless you have that representation. So that's our main goal in life, is getting representation on there. People who look like us, who represent us on these boards. We got people, there's so many Black teachers in the school system right now because of us. We do that. And we're trying to fight the system in ways that can get more Black teachers on. There's many systemic racist things that are keeping our people from becoming teachers, so that we don't have that voice, because we don't have that voice as far as in education. You know, we don't have that voice, but we need to have that voice, and we can only have that voice with more representation. So we got to put.
You got muted. Kumar, you kind of got muted right before you finished.
All right. Oh, my fault. I hit my computer while I was talking. I think I'm done there.
Okay. So you were talking about representation, absolutely. Anyone else? Let's hear from the student if it's all right. Liv, you have thoughts on that?
I agree. I think representation is really important. And with what Yvonne said about Manual, and I forgot the other school that she mentioned, but yeah, I think that's really an important thought, because those schools are in, I think, areas that people sort of, I guess, wouldn't expect them to be, like with the amount of money that they get and being sort of in that urban area. I think if we were able to, or the plans for the new schools, if they had magnet programs or some sort of niche that was Montessori or something like that, that made it more interesting to a lot of prospective students, I think that would be a really good step in the right direction.
I don't know if I put my hand down from earlier. I'm still learning how to put my hand up and down in Zoom too. But with regards to Montessori, a lot of that philosophy was built on younger students. So I've done a lot of work in the elementary schools. I can see how it overlaps to the middles. I think when it comes to high schools, it's maybe a focus on hands-on learning and putting the learning in students' hands. And I haven't done a lot of research on Montessori at the high school level, but I think the reality is hands-on learning and making it a learn by doing kind of scenario. Am I wrong on that, Yvonne? Have you done much research on the high school stuff?
I haven't done much about this, but if you look at Montessori, it's really a lot of project-based learning, which is what they've been doing at that school in Eminence, Kentucky, and another one in Union County. You know, we had a lot of project. You know, I will every year when they have that symposium, you know, they always bring down the people from Union County, and I just lap it up every minute I can. That is really super Montessori, where it's tied to the community, where it's very hands-on, where you're not learning something for the sake of knowing one more thing, but because you're going to use it in order to solve a problem. So, I mean, I think that these are Montessori high schools. They just don't call them that.
And Chris, I
And
see.
then an aspect of the Montessori is also it's kind of you work at a different pace sort of thing. I'm from Salt Lake City, and my high school tried doing the Montessori with us in high school, and we were like, really? And it bombed. It absolutely bombed because we felt it should have been something earlier. And we were quite a middle class high school, sort of thing. It's like, but we did diddly squat, in there. And we had a lot of our classes were, certainly hands-on projects and stuff like that. So it's like, it bombed. That's a state that ranks fourth in national literacy, but it's like, well, we just thought it was a joke, and we felt that it should have started at a younger.
Yeah, I don't think
age.
Montessori at its core is built for the older kids, but it can translate there.
It can. I think the aspects of it, but I'm thinking like Shawnee High School. Shawnee had a wonderful magnet program that was they just had the aviation, but they had a wonderful magnet with the hospitality industry, and they lost it. It was a really good program that thrived in the later 90s. When I used to substitute out there, but then for some reason they lost that. I know they're working on trying to that third floor do something with that, and the ESL moved out of there. So that's a school that can really be beefed up with. But it's just musical chairs with principals there. It's just absolutely musical chairs, I guess, as goes on there. But anyway.
Yeah, don't get me started on my philosophies behind all of that. Chris, I see your hand is up. I want to just tack on to Yvonne real quick. Yvonne's point about Montessori. I think really the more important piece of that is just whether it's Montessori or performing arts or all of the above, the idea is to have compelling programs and offerings at these schools so that there is just as much traveling going on from east and south outside of West Louisville to the West End, instead of relying on our families in the West End to be the ones to bear all of the burden of diverse schools. And so the movement to this new dual resides and building new schools in the West End does risk resegregating our schools. And that's why I think what I'm hearing from the coalition and the work that we've been doing and the message that we've been taking back to the board is that's a good first step, but now let's take it the next step and actually what are we going to do to flip the script? We don't have to allow our schools to be resegregated. What we need to do is take the burden off of our families that are the most disenfranchised. And so if there's a way to make those schools so compelling that we've still got diverse schools, but they're going to be stellar schools in the West End that are culturally competent and not causing any harm, and not only not causing harm, but repairing the harm. And that was another thing Greg and I talked about this morning, is we have to put the word reparations into our vocabulary, because there's been harm. There's been great harm done, and it's not enough to just stop the harm. Chris, your hand is up. I don't see you on my screen, but my screen is small. Is he there? There you are. You're talking, but you're muted.
Thanks. I agree with what you were saying. I think the real problem in what they're doing with talking about magnets right now is that they're looking at some really interesting magnets in this first initial approach, and they would go in the West End, but I'm afraid after that they're going to start saying, and so we need to sprinkle them all over the district, and then we get nothing out of that. Right. And their only answer to that, when we raised that, was that the magnet lotteries will be done by drawing somebody from class 1, class 2, and class 3, and then going back and somebody else in class 1, class 2, class 3 from the different demographic areas in the county. But that doesn't say anything about the hardship of the travel. And I think probably more importantly, it doesn't say anything about entrance requirements for magnets, which magnet schools of America say there shouldn't be any.
Right.
So until we get that, which they're not promising until some future date review of student assignment. And I can't believe after the couple of years they put into this, they're going to do that anytime soon unless we push it right now.
Right.
The other thing to speak to, I don't know, it looks like Kumar's already back on his other call. In January, polio was supposed to be bringing forward, or at least last time I talked to him was, a plan to do per pupil buildups of individual school funding that was going to be much more robust in terms of money for kids in poverty, ECE kids, but other kinds of programs, and really build up from that, as is being done in a bunch of other districts around the country, which would pour a higher percentage of money into low-income student population schools. And right now, that's just kind of Title I, a little bit of Title I money, but we know that Title I only covers about 16% of the estimated cost of the needs at high poverty schools. So that's going to be coming in January, and we need to light that up as a big part of this. That if that money doesn't go there, all the talk in the world about how to make these better schools goes down the toilet. Particularly, I mean, I'm assuming the tax increase will survive the appeal process, but a more immediate way of attacking this thing is we also need to build up what the real need is in those schools, and then proportionally make winners and losers in the schools. And some of the losers will be the high paid lunch percentage schools.
Absolutely.
I think that's the system we have built in place with starting with No Child Left Behind. We've got in the high stakes testing, standardized testing to measure the success of a school, where we're going to give them the highest percentage of free and reduced lunch, the least experienced teachers with the least amount of resources being funded, and that's the trap we need to be looking to get out of. And it's pretty clear to me that that's where our public education system stands, is an underfunding and blame game, and blame people for living on the edge that are living on the edge, including teachers that are trying to step in with great intentions, but being overwhelmed with cultural differences, I think is at the heart of our education system. And how do we push past that?
Chris, you mentioned the tax increase. On our call with Marty on Thursday, he mentioned that Jefferson County already sent out the tax invoices, and they refused to send out an updated invoice reflecting the new amount. And he seems to be pretty frustrated with that. And I wondered if you had heard anything along those lines.
Well, my tax bill showed what is our understanding of the law, which is they took an increase of about 2 cents in the tax rate because that's the 4% number, and that's all they could until the appeal was settled.
Okay, I guess Marty seems to think they should have gone ahead and sent out an additional invoice with the new amount.
If the appeal fails?
No, like now, like he seems to think that they should be going ahead and doing it. He seemed frustrated. And we even talked about how Frank Friday is a member of the Tea Party, and it seems like maybe he's being difficult. You know who Frank Friday is. Gosh, that sounds like a TV show character name. Did I say it wrong? I feel like that's Dragnet.
That would be
What's
Jack
the-
Friday.
Huh?
That
Like
would
to
be
know who
Jack
Frank
Friday.
Friday is.
Sounds like we're on talking about
Just the
Dragnet.
facts, ma'am.
There you go.
I thought it was Joe.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Joe is just the facts ma'am guy. All right.
He's
I
the
think
just the facts man guy.
it is Frank. So anyway, just something to keep an eye on, I guess.
Who is he, by the way?
Huh? Oh, he's like the county clerk point person that's been the tax, like he's who I got open records from. He's the one I asked the status of certain things. He's the one who always got back to me when I was trying to keep tabs on what was going on. He's their point person.
He's in no hurry then to pass the money on to JCPS. Funny that.
He's in a hurry to not pass the money.
Exactly.
Right.
He's in no hurry is what I meant to
That's
say.
right. Randy, do you want to chime in on student assignment?
Sure. Wait a minute, hang on. Am I there?
Yes.
Okay. It's commendable that you're addressing this issue. It's so deeply rooted, however, in past practices, which have echoed down through the decades, that I don't want to be a downer, but this is so difficult to overcome the legacy of the way this country was originally constructed, that the reparations that you speak of would almost have to seem to be of primary importance. And whatever form they might take, I would suggest they take in beefing up the schools in the areas that have been traditionally deprived and circumscribed by redlining and gerrymandering. These are injustices that are so old. I just I feel overwhelmed, and I know I understand the assignment plan. I don't want anybody to have to sit on a bus for an hour and a half just to re-engineer society. But that's where we are at this time, and you know we're struggling to get a few pennies to increase the property taxes and improve some of the schools. So just I don't see much improvement anyway soon. I don't mean to discourage you, but this is the makeup of this country, and I look forward to more and more struggles in trying to reverse the longstanding harm that has been done. And to put it all on the schools is, it's an impossible task. I'll leave it at that.
Good story. Anyone else on student assignment before we move on to the next topic? All right. Let me say one last thing about just wrapping up the student assignment piece of this. If you would encourage people to come on our Monday calls, or if we need to do a community forum that's more accessible than this, that's purposeful and intentional around the topic of student assignment, maybe we could make one of our Monday calls. I believe the technology that my subscription to Zoom has allows me to share on Facebook. So would you guys be even interested in us sharing this meeting publicly next week so that people are seeing us talking and they can click the link and join the conversation in real time? Is that something that people would be comfortable with?
I would, because that means we're doing things for people and not to people.
Right?
It too. I don't think the timing's great, but that's where we are. But
Right. Because of the holiday break, you mean?
right. But if we can start putting it out there and getting community conversation involved through Facebook. A lot of times people don't want to be the talking head on the Facebook video, but they might be willing to drop some suggestions in the chat box. So I do like that idea.
All right. Do you want to do that this time next week, or do we want to set a special time to do that?
What day of the month is our next Monday? How close is it to New Year's Day?
Sorry, guys. My phone is ringing through my computer.
I think it's the 28th, Yvonne.
So
Yeah,
it's not
that's what
so
I have.
close to New Year's Day that people are, they're not more checked out than they are today, in other words. They may be checked
That's
out.
the following Friday, that New Year's.
I mean, and we have 5 weeks counting today, so 4 more weeks before the January 18th school board meeting. And if we just make these same meetings shared on Facebook where people could jump in, I mean, that's kind of how the people's agenda is. When we met at the Braden Center, the door was open and people could come. And so we're just doing it through technology instead because of,
I don't think we have a choice at this point. There's just so much happening
yeah.
so quickly. We've got to have the conversation, and whoever can.
Right. And if we just manage that expectation that it's every week until that meeting, then if it is too busy because it's a holiday, but they can come the next week, then just kind of leaving that standing invitation open and being visible every Monday may get people into that rhythm so that by the time the board meeting comes, others that may have been reluctant will be like, okay, this time I'm going to do it. You know, I don't know. I think you're right, Greg. We don't really have any choice. And it'd be great to at least know that the people on this call support that, so I won't be out there by myself. You guys will come and join the calls.
I'll be there.
What's that?
I will be there.
Yay! And
Randy will be there.
Bring your friends. Randy will be there. All right. Melanie will be there. All
I'm
right.
always there, except for, one day a month.
I know you are. Thank you, Yvonne. Okay. So starting next week, we'll be sharing these calls publicly, and I'll go ahead and make that into some of the announcements on, I've been sharing it on Dear JCPS. Do we want to create our own special Facebook page or group or anything instead of doing it on Dear JCPS?
I think we need to bring it up to the Alliance board. I think it'd be something members that are active in other areas would like to plug in and catch up hour and a half of video to see what's going on in the education arena. And
I would agree with that.
get some other people to join us when they see what's happening.
So I'm not sure I understood if that was an answer to my question as far as where we share it, like where we put the links in the conversations publicly.
I think Greg, go ahead, Greg. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we added to the Kentucky Alliance board, and I can reach out to LSurge as well. But I'd like it to be streamed via Kentucky Alliance if possible.
All right. Somebody would need to have admin permission for that page. I don't have permission to share on that.
Yeah, we would need to bring it to the board for a vote, but let's make a point to do that, Gabe.
All right. Next up, General Assembly 2021 starts January 5th, and it is a 30-day session, and there is a break. I meant to pull up that calendar. I apologize. I was going to try to have that ready for our call. Does anyone want to talk about what they anticipate being on the agenda for the 2021 General Assembly and what some of your concerns and ideas and thoughts are? And I'll work on finding that calendar.
I think that Ralph Alvarado and Jason Nemes have made their agenda pretty damn clear. In 30 days, they want to bring about backdoor vouchers, cut funding to education in order to do so, begin tax reform where we get rid of the income tax and go to a regressive sales tax, because we know that taxes should be, the poorer you are, the higher percentage of money of your income should go to taxes. And see how badly they can mess with the pensions. Throw the new teachers under the bus as much as possible, and then back up the bus so they have 2 sets of tire treads. Did I miss anything? I think that's their whole agenda right
Yeah,
there.
that pretty much sums it up.
All right, I don't know if when I changed my screen, if you see the calendar or you still see the agenda.
And where is the education to the JCTA collective to say, we can't keep giving ground for organized labor and expect good things to happen? That's where I'm struggling the most. And how do we push our national NEA to be taking the stance that it needs to take moving forward? I think we've got some, and I think we're seeing Biden and newly elected officials, they need to be moved in that direction. And we can't keep playing the game or
Exactly.
keep losing.
Right.
And I think we need, Greg, you can just take a nap now because you've heard this from me about 100 times. You don't want to hear it 101st. But there are other states you're all sitting down, right? With worse legislatures than ours. I know. You're thinking, Yvonne, do unicorns and worse legislators exist? But indeed they do. Not the unicorns, but worse legislatures. And look what's been happening in Arizona. I mean, they had people who make, Samantha Maddox would just be one more, and Damon Thayer wouldn't even be the craziest people in the Arizona legislature, not by a far piece. So, and yet, look what they've been able to do. So when you fight, you win. We cannot throw in the towel, especially on the new teachers. I'm an old lady, and I'm going to be out of here in 3 years. But you know what? The young people, that's the future of this profession that I love. 1/3 at any time, 1/3 of JCPS are new teachers. If we throw them under the bus, when they come for us, and you know they will, look what happened to Detroit. First they came for the weakest unions, and the next one, and the next one, and they saved the cops and the firefighters for last. There was nobody who didn't get screwed on that deal. First of all, you shouldn't throw the new teachers on the bus because it's the wrong thing to do. But if you're not moved by morality, be moved by political savvy and expedience. When 1/3 of your membership, 5 years from now, 1/3 of our membership will be under this shitty new system. And should they raise a finger for us? No, I don't blame them. We didn't do jack for them. Why should they do jack for us? This is the best way to destroy the union, is to throw the new teachers under the bus. This is nonsense.
For sure.
Exactly. First of all, it doesn't save the state any money. That's why Bevin couldn't release his double secret assessment. It just takes money away from the pensioners to give to donors on Wall Street. And the evaluation showed that plain as day. So here they're going to come up with the same thing. It's not going to save the state money. It just reshuffles it takes it from the undeserving teachers and gives it to the deserving millionaire hedge fund managers. Because that's happily ever after in you know, Robert Osborne's brain, David Osborne's brain, excuse me. I'll shut up now. Sorry. I'm getting off my soapbox now.
Chris Harmer, you have your hand up.
I think Yvonne covered what I was concerned about, that Alvarado's, what do you call them, educational opportunity accounts, which are this year's tuition tax credits or vouchers.
I want to add to what Yvonne said and how there are terrible legislatures all over the country. And what's frustrating to me is that Kentucky has had a lot more lead time and a lot more warning of what was coming. And we were winning. We were fighting them off. We were winning. And here we are 3 or 4 years, I think, into a pretty successful fight. And we're just going to like give it up and quit fighting when we were winning. And it really just feels like all that energy, instead of carrying it forward, when we've got more energy now than we've ever had in our history, there seems to be no effort to use that energy to end this onslaught of predatory practices once and for all. We know what's happening. We have all the right language. We have all the right people. We've done 100 dress rehearsals. We know what to do. And now we're going to just tuck our tails and let them do it to us? That doesn't make any sense at all. Kentucky, Tennessee, it's too late. It's too late to save Tennessee. It's not too late to save Kentucky. Why aren't we?
I want to follow up with Kumar on something he put into chat, but while he gets connected, I know he's double zooming. I just feel like we saw this whole COVID situation develop, and there was so much. We heard from teachers throughout the state that were afraid to even post anything of questioning return on Facebook for fear of retaliation. And so much of our public education system statewide is predicated on that fear of retaliation. And you got to watch out for your butt in JCPS too as well. But that's how the system's being held in place. And we need to figure out some real strategies forward before it's too late. Kumar, I saw you say we needed written policies. I'd love to hear more on that.
Yeah. You know, it's two things. Two things I want to say. Yeah, on the written first, before I go to the written policies, is that I think that the people. Well, this is the part where we really need to push the educational point for people, because I think that, as Gay said, I think we did have a lot of momentum going into, and I think that momentum was really subsided as soon as Bashir's inauguration hit. I think that a lot of people, that was the culmination of all their work. It was like, because I know I knocked on at least 400 doors myself, and and I think that once that inauguration came, it's like everything. People always look at the supposed top people. They look at your mayor, they look at your governor, they look at the president, but none of those people make laws. And that's the problem, is that we're not getting our people focused on the laws and the policies. We got to get the people focused on those, like, all the laws that we see that are coming in this General Assembly. I feel like, people who are on this right now, are the participants on this call right now, we know that a lot of these things are coming down. We know they're getting ready to hit us with these tax scholarships. I'm trying to do, but I don't think the public knows that at all. I think that we're in an elite educational group of our own, and we know these things, and we're not raining down on the people like we're supposed to be, or whatever the terminology. I don't know what that is, but we're not doing that. But as far as I see that I saw an article actually it was in the Sunday's paper. It was talking about Alvarado and trying to get elected with a Bevan. He was a joke. Well, not, anyways, but he but him trying to get those tax scholarships. And I know I saw that Brent had responded on some levels saying that, you know, basically we're squeezed way too tight to be giving money away. So there's fight going on the union level. There's always fight going on as far as with lobbyists and everything else. But as far as when we need our union to push further in that aspect, what we wanted to do specifically, because it's a lot of things we say we can push further. What the hell does that mean? But yo, what does that mean? And what that means is somebody's got to sit down and write on a piece of paper, yo, I think our union should do so enough. And if it's a righteous cause, that shit should have been given to me like 12 million years ago so I could push for it. That's what that should have been. I mean, it's really just that simple, for real. We got a board meeting coming up in January. What are the policies that we really want to push? What do we want to say? Okay, here, I make a motion that JCTA take a public hardcore stance on blah, 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 blah. You see what I'm saying? That's what, you know, and if we say that and then we push it and it's righteous, then we have to take that stand, whether it be on social media or be out in the public or we're doing a news interview, but we got to be, you know, but I think that, you know, I keep wrestling to myself on what I plan to do on my immediate future and things like that. But I really feel that at this point, at this stage where I am right now, that if there's something that I believe in, I truly feel like I can push it, no matter what it is. I feel like I can push it. So that's what I'm saying. We need these written policies. I don't have all the policies in my head and what I would like to have written down or say all the time. But once I see it enough and if I believe in it, I'll add to it or subtract to it from it, whatever. But then, you know, push. That's all it is, because we have a lot of ideas, we have a lot of messages, but until that pen hits the paper, none of that means anything.
Can I ask you, Kumar, and I'm new to the whole national logistics. So if there's a proposal written and it to JCTA and it looks like a policy worth pushing for nationally, can that be pushed up to NEA and pressure on them?
Oh, it can, because here's where we're at the level where we can push it up, you know, because well, number one, I'm with JCTA and KEA, so it can be pushed up to local and state. Our DA is in April, maybe the second week of April this year. I think they pushed it back this year for some reason. But anyways, and then we have our RA, our national, you know, representative assembly this summer, last week of June, first week of July usually. And so, yeah, all those policies that we push, like, are become national. A lot of policies that are being are national been pushed from here. Like we started a policy where for the national that, you know, it's like, hey, you know what we do? We recruit minority teachers, especially Black and brown. But on a national level, you know, it was just a bunch of talk until we created our new business item that required them to create a pilot program, which would take 10 states as a pilot and have 2 people as recruiters for a whole year in those 10 states, and then we'll expand it at the following year. See, those are things that's putting the rubber to the road that, like, hey, we need to really get something done, and this is what we're talking about. That, you know, that had to be written out on paper. That was the policies that I was just talking about, to create something new or to subtract something that you don't want. However we want to change, we got to write it out and then push.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask regarding the new teachers and the pensions? Has JCTA come out strong and said there's no way in heck we're going to let this happen, or are they kind of saying, well, you know, because I had heard that there's kind of more some language going around that it's going to be brutal and we're going to have to just take some of the hits and not fight. And I don't know
Nah,
if that's
that
actually.
I don't believe in that at all. That's bull. I don't. We only got one life to live. Live it. If you feel strongly about something, you feel strongly about that. But you feel strongly about that. But at the same time, the reality is that we are going to be working with a lot of people who some do, and many don't have our best interests. So we have to take that. So, but I'm not. I don't think that we have to sit here and no. The
Right.
only person we supposed to bow down to is God, and that's about it. So and so as far as that, but as far as as far as the new teachers, JCTA stance on JCTA hadn't really even taken the stance on the new teacher pension yet. It hasn't really. It's kind of milquetoast right now. I'm not really seeing any action on that right now.
Well, and past experience tells me that if it's not coming from the top saying, yes, this is our stance, no matter what the individual teachers do, it's not going to gain any traction. And in fact,
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. No, because at one point there was a session where right when we were doing that fight about them trying to make Breckenridge Metro combine it with
right, Minor Daniels,
other school.
Minor
What's the
Daniels.
name? Minor Daniels, yeah, Minor Daniels. They're trying to combine us with that. They were going to go ahead and push that, but we had all these conversations with really just me and you, Gay. We had most of those conversations around that, and at one board meeting, I just put the motion out there that JCTA is going to take a public stance against that. And from that, the board making that public stance is bigger because the president is compelled to do what the board says, just like the governor is compelled to do what Congress tells them to do too. So in that aspect, the JCT, I got, as soon as we made that motion, I got a call that night from a couple of board members from JCPS who were concerned about that and wanted to hear a little bit more about that. It's really, it's a threefold process if people really understood the power far enough. Number one, the biggest body, of course, is just the PRs at the meeting. Any motion made at a PR meeting cannot be overturned by the president, nor can it be overturned by the board of directors. They're the strongest body because that's all the people. That's democracy right there. The second is the board of directors. The board of directors can make policies and share it with everybody else, and really, I would say even underneath that would be the president, because the president can suggest policies but can't really create them. In a perfect world, that's the way it's supposed to work. But we know that leadership always has a way of doing what they just making things happen. But really is just about the bodies that really just make it all, and we really got to focus on people in the PR meetings coming up with policies and adopting them. We got to focus on people in the boardrooms coming up with policies and having those adopted.
So
I know Chris had his hand up, but I do want to get back to Kumar because I think we've got
earlier. Sorry about that, Chris.
I feel like we've got a freight train coming at us with regard to state legislator and the pensions, and unless JCTA or some other KEA is going to make a stance to say, no, we feel like benefits toward new teachers is going to help us attract the people we need, it's going to roll through. And so I come back to you on a next step question, Kumar, but Chris, I know you've been waiting.
No, I just was really responding to Kumar. I'm not a teacher. I don't know the JCTA processes. Is there no process to develop a legislative lobbying priority system, or is that just in the void left up to Brent and the upper level of folks? Because what I heard Kumar saying was, if you bring something from the reps, that can be put on it, but that's not an integral part of that council. Their job description basically is to come up with those things and feed them up.
Yeah, see, that's the part. That's good. That's a real good question, and that just really goes back to the part of the power that people don't understand that they have. You know, when we're at these PR meetings, we discuss all of these legislative issues. We discuss them in the depth that people want to. So people, you know, in those instances, people offer their feedback. They're able to tell us what they would like to do about those issues. That's actually the time right there to actually take a stand and say, hey, we want to put ourselves on the line as being firmly for or firmly against this. And those are the times to do that. It's really, really in those PR meetings when we're discussing legislative issues, or like I said, even in the board member meetings where we're discussing legislative issues. Yeah, and definitely annual meetings. Yeah, definitely some at our annual meetings like the Kentucky District Delegate Assembly and the National Representative Assembly. Absolutely. Yeah, all of those times are geared for our members to make their voices heard and to take stands. You know, I've been to so many PR meetings, and maybe these are things we should be reminding people at PR meetings, because it's just, our last PR meeting, we did have a motion go through, and, so have been motions that have gone through, but as far as people's deciding that they want to take a stance on something else, I don't know if people are thinking in those terms when they're making motions. So.
Well, I'm so new to the game as an unofficial alternative building rep. I don't even get the invites to all the RP meetings. So, but I'm a concerned teacher citizen, and I'm confused to why they're in more of a stance when we've got this blitzkrieg coming from a different direction to say, okay, this pension stuff, we don't know about it, and we're going to do away with it for any future hires. And I'm scratching my head as to where is my union leadership to oppose stuff that's going to put us behind for years and years.
This is Randy.
I was wondering if you were going to chime in here. You've been trying to get.
Could I chime in here?
What, 2013?
Guys, I gotta leave, so I'll see you next week. Another
All
call.
right, thanks, Chris.
Bye.
There is a basic problem with JCTA, and that is it is under the same leadership that has been there for 20 years. It is the same crew that muscled through the elimination of term limits. I have been around for 22 years, and I have seen this situation decline. Back in 2001, a, quote, family got its hands around the neck of JCTA, and they've had a grip on that organization for the last 20 years. And it has been apparent since 2004 that this pension is under assault. The former president of U of L, Ramsey, suggested to Governor Patton that they begin to tap the funds of the pension with the eventual goal of repaying those funds, but taking those funds and putting them into current projects. Well, they never repaid those, and so the pension fell behind in its contributions, which should have been given or made up by the Kentucky State Legislature. The actuarially required contribution has not been honored according to current GASB standards. That's the General Accounting Services Board. And this legislature has basically lied, and JCTA has gone along with those lies because of the contributions that end up in these political action committees, which are such as BSK, which are actually run either overtly or covertly by the current leadership of JCTA. And until that flaw is addressed and you get some new blood in at the top, And in my opinion, it's high time for a woman or a person of color to begin to represent the teachers in Jefferson County. This problem of not having strong policy positions and not addressing the legislature, we were even, and Gay and I were labeled as rogues by the current leadership of JCT for staging sick outs. We organized sick outs, and that's what really got the legislature to back down from the previous attempt to convert this pension plan to the hybrid and throw the new teachers under the bus. So people that are new to JCTA need to understand that there is a group of people who have been in power for over 20 years and have witnessed the decline of the pension, are namby-pamby, milquetoast, self-enriching. And that is why JCTA, and of course by extension KEA, which is so dependent on the largest teachers union in the state, that is why no strong positions are taken. And these PR meetings, I used to be a PR for a good 7 years. You go to those, they feed you, Brent says a few things, and then basically you're dismissed. And that's sort of ineffective. And so I formed an organization called the Teacher Retirement Legal Fund to file lawsuits to protect the pension. We've done 3 of these. And that, along with sick outs and people taking to the streets and going to Frankfurt and storming that Capitol, are really the only times I've seen the legislature buckle. They assume right now, because of COVID and teachers being homebound, that we're not going to do anything, so we don't have to take these hits. But we do need strong leadership, and we need a change of leadership at the top of JCTA.
A couple things. I would start off by saying closed mouths don't get fed. I'm gonna go back right to the PR. You got some people who are gonna be, who gonna be bold enough to say what they want to say and actually do what they need to do. And we got to support these. We got to support these people. We've got to use our powers. We can't say that we don't have power when we haven't even exercised our power. We've got to exercise our power and have it first. JCTA cannot, under any circumstances, even look like they suggesting a sick out. Why would it would just kill everything? You know what I mean? Yeah, they didn't. JCTA didn't go. It wasn't anti-sick out or pro. It's pretty much. It allowed the wheels to go ahead and do what it did with minimal interference, because in actuality, it was really more of a supporter, but you can't be on record as a support. But for that, just for saying that, that the pension thing. Well, first of all, I haven't been on the board for 20 years. I've been on for about 4, maybe 5 at most. All right. So I know that the leadership has definitely changed within 20 years because I ain't been around. So as me, my first year or 2, I would say that was a learning process for me, and I'm learning every year that I'm here, and I'm getting stronger and getting better, and just to try to keep people in the loop. And we just adopted a racial equity resolution 2 months ago, which hasn't been done ever, and that's something that I've been pushing. Is really our advocacy, and I wouldn't just say our. And every time I'm saying our, I'm talking about Natalie and I. It's really been our advocacy for pushing for gaining minority teachers that really got the ACR off the ground, because we were part of the ACR a few years ago, and we really pushed. And we part of the language changing in the policy that made the ethnic minority director of JCTA the lead of HCR. That was part of our thing. They should go together. Being the KEA representative. So that's what I'm saying. So as far as me being on there for as far as saying that JCTA could have been along with the pension crisis, I don't know. JCTA didn't control the House or the Senate, so I don't see how that. And I mean, respect your opinion. I know you've written many articles about, you know, this type of thing, and but you know, I can't really, you know, there is a process for doing everything that we want to do. And I just think that, you know, last time we went on strike because of this pension issue. You know, we were fighting for the new teachers to have the same pension that we had. Yeah.
I'd suggest there's laws in place that are intended to limit the power of JCTA. And we need to figure out a way to, you know, I know this is on tape, but to hear figure out a best path forward to where all of our voices are going to be heard and there's effectual action made to make a difference. And I know the way laws are set up, JCTA can't necessarily be the prime driver originally. And I think that's where we're seeing successful wildcat strikes in other states. And once that's off the ground, then the local union can come on board. But there's just too much at stake for us not to be working together, and we've got to come up with a way forward that works.
Bring back term limits.
Amen.
Amen. I promise to make it brief. No, I'm not getting on a soapbox. I just want to note that on January 7th marks my anniversary of living in Kentucky, 33 years. And in all of that time, I have never seen the presidents of 4 unions get together to denounce a governor, not even Bevan, to denounce legislation, to denounce anything. But JCTA, SEIU, AFSCME, and the Teamsters got together to denounce the teachers that went on strike. They were not winking and nodding as they've done in Arizona, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Chicago, Massachusetts. They were peeing their pants that their membership had more balls than they did. And
Hear,
I will
hear.
shut up now.
It's kind of, I mean, no.
Lamar, there was a 49-minute press
No.
conference where
I
they
mean,
named us by name.
I think there's some things that people aren't really seeing. Like, I mean, I know that the community was behind pushing the sick outs. I know that the community was behind pushing the sick outs. And I feel like we were behind. The JCTA was really behind. Honestly, I don't think that, and to be completely honest, I don't think any of the sick outs would have been really successful without JCTA's input. And that's because everybody's in front of the, you know, not really not understanding all the things going on. I think that you know, you had all these social groups. You had all these social groups pushing for sick outs. You had what was that group that it's like a pseudo group of it's not Dear JCPS, it's the other one. It's
JCPS leads.
not JCPS leads. What's the other one that came
Oh,
before?
Kentucky 120 United.
Yeah. The 120. Yeah, the Kentucky 120. Thank you. The Kentucky 120 is, you know, pretty much a brainchild of KEA. All of that stuff was all of these groups are one way or another have been connected. So you can't just, you know, you can't, JCTA, you gotta be smart, man. You can't just publicly go out and say, yeah, we support the sick outs. It makes no sense. You got to come out and say, no, we don't support the sick outs. Or, you know, got people creeping up and say, hold on, are you supporting the sick outs? If you're not saying nothing against the sick outs, are you supporting the sick outs? If that's the case, then you're violating this rule and that rule, and we're going to take away your whole union from you. We can't, we got to be smart. We can't just be like, oh,
They
yeah,
have to be smart.
we
They
can't support.
didn't have to be craven. I also remember that right after that, they brought in Morgan McGarvey to try to get him to talk about what a waste the sick out was. I'm not going to say who was the skunk at that garden party,
Mhm.
but some people asked interesting questions and turned that little narrative around.
Yeah.
So you know what? We do have to be smart. You
Yeah.
have to be smart to know who your friends are
Yeah.
in a pinch.
Yeah, I was down there every day for those sick outs. I was down there every single day for those sick outs. And when it was all the way large and there were thousands of people there, it seemed like all the way down to the very end where it seemed like there might have been 100 to 200 people there. And that was my biggest frustration is that, you know, we still going through sick outs, but ain't nobody showing up for the rally. Ain't nobody showing
That's
up.
because
And
they
it's
put
just
water on it. They
vacation days.
lost it. That's what we're saying. They derailed the movement by
I
attacking.
don't know if derailed completely is the right word, but certainly there was tensions. I never joined Kentucky 120, and I'm glad I didn't because they
Racist as hell.
they went after my black colleagues that stood up for that said we need to be looking at these gang bills that are coming through, and then they got railroaded. So I'm not saying we don't have to be smart, and I'm not saying there isn't a can of worms everywhere we step, but I do think we need to this group to come up with a plan moving forward, and I understand there's a lot of legal wrinkles when it comes to formalized union action in the state, and that's intentional. I mean, that's part of the oppression right there. And how do we, you know, use groups like KEU or NEU to be the springboard to get locals involved, because it needs to happen. And if we don't act, we're going to be for so much further down the line than we need to be in 2 years.
But Kumar does make a good point. We cannot rely on the union to tell us when we have to go on strike. That is something the rank and file needs to decide. They can't wait on everybody else. They need, as a group, you know, which is sad, we don't have general membership meetings as unions do in other states. My colleagues in California have a monthly general membership meeting, wish we did too, but you know, you can't rest on other people. We can create our own general membership meetings. We can decide when it's time to go, when it's time to do something else, and the most effective ways to discomfort the legislature, because that is when they act. Look at the COVID relief bill that just passed. If there were not two Republican senators in Georgia drowning right now, you'd be getting nothing. But they were made uncomfortable, and they had to at least pass, you know, a Band-Aid. They knew how to make them uncomfortable. We need to be able to do the same.
We had a leader prior to this one. Her name was Laura Kirchner, and she fired that organization up. And this is over 20 years ago. Laura Kirchner was an excellent JCTA president, And since then, we have been in the doldrums. The fire and the leadership starts at the top. We're paying a lot of money to JCTA for milquetoast leadership. I've seen better. I know that there is better. And right now, we don't have it.
See, that sounds like a motion there, Randy. You know, that's a PR motion.
Google me, man. I filed so many lawsuits to try to save the pension.
I know you big
You know,
time.
this is just ridiculous.
Well,
I've read
I make a
that.
motion, we push Kumar for president.
Fine. Let's get somebody in there that's going to take the reins and lead us.
Come on, Kumar.
Come on, Kumar.
Yvonne, you're muted.
Oh, well.
I'm not muted. I'm not muted.
I hear what Yvonne was saying.
Oh, my Vaughn's muted. Now, I was actually, before y'all hit me with that one, I was actually saying that, first of all, thank you, but I was saying that Randy, I know I've read a lot about Randy. I know he's a big advocate. I would just, you know, as far as like your concern about terms and everything, I still feel like that's something that should be brought to the PR and let the people vote. I mean, any issue that you have, I just feel that it is. But I'm not, like I said, I'm still in the midst of just deciding my immediate future, and I just gonna figure out what's best for me and my family real quick, and everyone else, and just see where I can go from there. So I won't declare anything right now. Can't do that. But I appreciate y'all.
When is the deadline to file?
When is the deadline to file? That's a good question. I need to find that out. I think it's like
I have that. I know
January
it.
6th, baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
first week of January. Thank you.
It's 21 days before the election itself? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. 3 weeks before the election, right? Before the bigger
Because at one
election.
point, I thought the election was going to be on January 21st, according to the bylaws, so I don't know how I guess they read it differently than I did, but the 20th or whatever.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, Kumar, but
No, that's all
you
good.
know, when you get a president that doesn't have any term limits, that's what's created.
That's dangerous about any position.
Where anybody is really conscious to even challenge it, and I'm concerned about that.
Right.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all good. It's all good. No, just I appreciate it, and you know, just no. I'll just leave that alone right now.
All right, we'll take the pressure off. Greg, your hand is up. Is that from earlier?
No, that's just what I just said to Kumar. I think we've got so many systems in place that are designed to keep us running in circles, and at the forefront of that is having the same person. And I don't know Brent personally, and he seems like a good enough guy to me. I've got nothing against him personally, but I do feel 30 years at the helm and seeing what I'm seeing right now, it's enough for me to have my eyebrow way up. I mean, it's we got to find a way forward, and I'm not seeing it currently.
And my thought is that even Brent should see the writing on the wall with the movement for Black Lives and JCPS being an urban district and a real focus on intentional lifting of Black voices in particular. He should see that and be the big man and say it's Kumar's time, and I'm gonna step aside and elevate Kumar and endorse Kumar. I mean, that would be the right thing to do. So
Yes.
here we are.
Well, you know, we are a district that is 50% children of color, Black and brown kids.
We've had white man at the lead for 20 years.
Amen.
You know,
No wonder
and
As far as
And this is not even a reflection on Brent. This is just, he's not going to know what life is like to some kid who lives in the Russell neighborhood. He's not going to know what life is like for my students who come here from Preston Highway to my school, whose parents don't speak English, whose parents probably don't have papers. They don't tell me. I don't ask. I don't want to know. But, that's a really scary life. And it affects you in school when at any time your dad won't come home from work because they raided his factory where he works. Or the construction company he works for, or whatever.
Or they might raid your home, as they've done to many of our students.
They have done it, but they really economy of effort. It's so much easier to arrest 300 people at work, and then everybody's worried about what happened to them, and they figure it out when nobody comes home. Because the terror is a big part of it. I'm sorry. I'm back on a soapbox. I'm going to shut up now. Sorry. I am sorry.
So we're going to take the heat off Kamar for a minute and see what else is on the agenda. I have the calendar pulled up for the legislative session. There's 5 days. Can you guys see the calendar now? Or 4 days? On January 5th, it's 4 days of session, and then they go right into a 3-week break. You guys see that? So we have to be leery of what they might cram through in the first 4 days and make sure they know that we are going to be there every single day, whatever that means, whatever that looks like. And then, Greg, I think you told me January 12th was the day of learning. Is that correct?
There are more than one.
Okay.
There's whatever that Tuesday falls around the 12th, and then either the next Tuesday or 2 Tuesdays later, and they have also talked about maybe adding more. I don't know what that means.
Well, there's not even
There's definitely at least 2.
There's not any session going on at that time. So are there going to be efforts made to have teachers in the building when session is going on? Or can we even get in the building? I don't even know what the pandemic situation is. Do we need to be outside? What's the story? Who's in charge?
I don't know, but I'm going to ask Mary Lou Marzian.
Yeah, outside's the last I heard, according to Spectrum News, but you know how it gets updated.
And then, there was that time when they were trying to prevent the sick outs and they came up with the plan to send people to Frankfurt on a schedule. I think this would be a good year to do that too. Even if they, instead of waiting until everything is assault and battery on pensions and teachers and students, why not have a proactive plan in place so that we're not waiting until it's time to get sick? Days of learning is not enough, in my opinion.
Days of learning are not enough. And the other thing is that it's going to be hard to get people to turn out because they're scared. I mean, forget the legislature, who's vaccinated?
Right, or even scared of retaliation and who's going to be seen in the logbook or on the Frankfurt steps on their Zoom call, and reported. By the way, speaking of retaliation, one of the teachers who participated in the WFPL series was written up. What? How does that happen? How does that happen? They're told not to talk to the press. So they're also going to be told not to talk to legislators. Who backs them up when they do?
In Henderson, I have that one contact in Henderson, the only one I know there, telling me that they were told not to contact their own, this is totally illegal, but their school board member.
That's
What?
crazy.
What the F? You're a citizen too.
And
You know?
And a taxpayer? Absolutely.
I'm just saying.
You're right. Those things need to be called out when they happen, because as soon as they happen, the teachers get the memo. Ooh, and that chilling effect takes place, and then everybody gets, all the legislators and all the shady characters get whatever they want. So we need some plan to create safe space for teachers to start speaking out, and if they get retaliated against, to report that. Like somebody who's going to advocate for these teachers when they get reported for exercising their rights.
If I could just say, Steve Neal, who used to be executive director of JCTA, he did that at certain points when we went to Frankfurt over healthcare back in 2004 under Ernie Fletcher. Steve Neal was excellent in protecting the teachers from retaliation and intimidation. He's retired now, but you can have people at the top who are very effective in protecting the membership, because I know Steve Neal did that.
Absolutely. I mean, Marty's been pretty good about it. When I hear about it, I take it to Dr. Polio, and he has done right by the teachers that I've raised awareness of. But I don't think that should be the only avenue that we have. I shouldn't have to text Marty every time. There should be some other channel. All right, Kumar has to go.
Bye, Kumar.
He says he would like to speak with you, Randy, some more. So we're going to share your number.
Kumar, we do have some like video clipping you on the People's Agenda. Gay, can I forward that to Kumar?
You can forward whatever you like to Kumar.
Okay. All right. We do need to get working on those written policies if that's our best step forward, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kumar. So I'm going to switch back to the agenda and just see where we are. So we talked about the critical legislation as part of that conversation. The elections we talked a little bit about. There is the BSK runoff coming up January 11 through 13.
Oh, I have a quickie question on Brianna's law. We did not, Attica Scott's a sponsor, right? Has she been able to pick up co-sponsors? I'm hoping the answer is at least some. Excellent. I think this will be hard. I think this will be hard to vote against, so they'll try to keep it from coming up.
I believe you are correct. So we have
like they do in Congress. If they had come up with the COVID relief earlier, people would have voted for it. So they had to make sure it didn't come up.
Right.
It's right. McConnell sat on it since May.
And if Loeffler and Perdue weren't in trouble in Georgia, he'd still have his butt on it.
Right. I mean, we have to show up in Frankfurt to stop bad bills as much as we have to show up in Frankfurt to push the good bills. There's two sides to the coin as to why we need to be there. Greg, is your hand up?
From earlier, sorry.
That's right. I'm just making sure. So JCTA elections, that ties into this pressure, because that's where the endorsements come from. That's what drives the lobbying efforts and the strength behind the messaging and the proactive nature of those efforts. And so making sure we have the right people in those seats. I don't know if everybody is familiar with the BSK election and what all took place, but there was November 30th to December 2nd was the initial BSK election. There were 4 candidates. where roughly 500 people voted. 56 of them were abstentions somehow. The two top vote getters were within 5 votes of each other. And then the next two were still in the 80 to 90 point. So there was no majority winner. But they didn't call for a runoff until the ballot had been questioned. And when they asked to see the tallies, instead of defending the tallies, they were like, oops, we made a mistake. And so then they named a different winner. And so again, within 3 to 5 points, two highly capable Black women who we need to be elevating the voices of, Black teachers in our public school system. So I think it's shameful that teachers are being put in a position to where they're having to choose between two who really both deserve a seat at the table, both belong at the table. And, but that's where we are. And there are 12 seats on this Better Schools Kentucky PAC, which, by the way, the PAC determines who to endorse as well as how to spend those endorsement dollars that come from teachers' dues. And of those 12 seats, 10 of them are nominated by Brent. The other 2 are elected by at-large elections. And so every year it's 6 and 6. So Brent already nominated 5 for this year that were voted in by the existing board. And then the 1 open seat is what this election was held for. And Kumar's wife, Natalie, is one of the 2 that is in the runoff, as well as Kenyatta Dean Baker. And I don't know the full makeup of the board. Somebody else asked me that today. Does anybody know the makeup of the existing board? And back to the part where I just feel like more effort should be made to appoint these highly capable, qualified individuals to these seats so that they're not stuck in being pitted against each other for that one at-large position. And but that's what is happening, and that's what the runoff is on January 11th. So keep an eye out for that. Anything else on BSK? Anybody before I move on to regular elections?
I'd like to hear the answer on the JCTA board makeup, if Yvonne or Melanie or Randy have that insight.
I don't know what it is, but that was an awful long meeting that other night. I put my camera on and I dozed off. But it was some sort of a glitch thing. That was just crazy having meetings that long. That was goofy. But Kenyatta would be an outstanding person to represent.
She ready to run for president?
Oh, no, I'm talking about for the BSK.
Okay.
Oh, I don't, well, maybe.
Sorry to interrupt.
Maybe actually, yeah. I mean, she would be excellent, and she's very humble, and she's a great, she would represent very well.
Yeah, absolutely would. They both would. And when the Louisville bar exam test results came back, and they told all those people that they had passed, and then later had to take it away and tell them that they hadn't. Or you're familiar with that incident? A lot of the people on social media were like, just give it to them. It's a racist test anyway. Look at your board. It's all white. Clearly there's a barrier. Remove the barrier so more people of color, more minorities can have access to these tables. And so when these 2 ladies got as close as they did, you know, I feel like as a community, we could be going, just give it to both of them. They're both qualified. And then BSK could have 13 people instead of 12. Is that really that big a deal? I just really dislike this idea of pitting them against each other. And we're all fighting for the same things. Kenyatta has done a fabulous job of holding Jason Nemus and Kevin Bratcher accountable. The whole reason she stepped up is because she saw that these lawmakers were saying and doing things and still getting the endorsements. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. So you know, some better strategy definitely could be put into action.
Well, I have another meeting coming up, so I'm going to say goodbye.
All righty, I think we were about.
Can I ask your
I'm
opinion?
so glad you were here, Melanie.
Nice to meet you.
Well, I mean, Greg sent it earlier, and I just, well, you know, I'm
I'm glad you could join it.
doing some
And
other stuff here.
hope to
Yeah.
make it back another time. So can I throw some potential topics for our racial justice, next racial justice subcommittee, HCR event? Black history, ending the pipeline to prison, pensions, restorative practice, trauma-informed care, and what roles do teacher unions play in demanding a better future, amplifying student solutions to community problems. Of those, what do you think are on the forefront of the next racial justice event? That's a loaded question. And I know you're on the run.
Oh, gosh. No, I think our big issue is the mental health and trauma that everybody's dealing with. Our, you know, our students, our families, communities, and us. I think that's a top kind of thing. What did you have else on there?
Well, Black history is something that's coming down the pipe, or at least cultural responsive.
Oh, stopping the pipeline. That's very important
Yeah.
issue.
And then the fourth is, as I have it, what roles do teacher unions play in demanding better future and amplifying? And I put this as the same question, but I guess it could be two different events. How do we amplify student solution voices to community problems? I think we've got a real dilemma with the base of our rank and file, and how do we educate, how do we open eyes to the need to take some real action?
Well, as you say, that our base is they're burned out, absolutely burned out.
Yeah, it's been a shock and awe campaign.
Yeah, so they're just burnt out, and it's like well, but they can be active within their own realm of people they know and stuff like that, and that's where they can have a big influence.
So augmenting teacher roles, augmenting teachers with awareness and their roles in building community within their
Sure.
circle of influence.
Sure.
Thank you for sitting in, Melanie.
Okay.
Just this meeting, just like all of us on there, just what we need to, right? 2 more hours of hashing it out, but the grind still goes on, and we've got to keep pushing forward. So I do appreciate your time.
Okay. Well, I'll see you next time.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, Jcta Elections is the only other thing besides what Greg had at the end for us to discuss. It does not sound like Kumar is willing to run for president, so we're gonna. But I think Randy's point is valid, that there's a flaw, that until that flaw is addressed, we're not gonna be able to go in and fight with the full strength that we're going to need.
Well, we're going to be in a position of fighting the legislature while filing the union leadership, which is
Yeah.
telling the legislature at every turn, you're right, they're wrong. Thanks a lot.
Right. That's like having one of those, I guess, a parent that sides with the child instead of backing up the other parent, right?
Yes.
So, Randy,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Well, here's the deal. I'm very close to retirement. I'm a white male. I'm 67. I ran against Brent in 2015. My gut feeling is it's time for a woman, or it's time for a woman or another or a person of color. This district is what? It's 40% black. It's 75% female. I just, I can run again. But the thing is, I'm just, I'd be a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. I mean, really, it's time for a woman. Or, I mean, we used to have term limits. We used to have turnover. As I say, Laura Kirchner was excellent as JCTA president. But you've got a flaw in JCTA right now, and it is crippling the teachers in this state because JCTA is the largest group. It controls KEA. It's got the most money. Brent opposed, what does he appoint? 10 people out of 12 on BSK?
Would
Which
it
is
be more obvious? I don't see how.
yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to belabor the obvious, but that's, in my humble opinion, our main problem. With an active leader, and I remember Laura, we did a lot, we defended a lot. We were not in such a weak position as we are now. We had a strong pension even under Laura Kirchner. She was there for 2 terms, did excellent work. I don't want to belabor this, but darn, I've watched this thing go downhill for 20 years.
And now it seems to be irreversible. Like you tried to intervene when it was still salvageable.
Yeah. I wouldn't have gone outside of the union and filed lawsuits and formed TRELF and raised $30,000 to pay for the lawsuits. That should all be the job of JCTA, the Teachers Association. But they would not move. They would not, because you have a grip at the top. And that is, it's inestimable how powerful and strangulating that grip is.
Well, and
People,
if you,
yeah,
sorry.
I'm done.
If you look at Chris Tobey's book and the things that he's been saying all these years, not only is the BSK directing funds for teachers' dues and endorsements that really kind of have a great deal of influence, if not completely dominate who is elected to the House and Senate and the governor's seat and the constitutional positions. There's a great deal of power just from the BSK PAC, but then you also have the pension commissions, the no bid secret contracts that are siphoning money out of the pensions over to BlackRock and to
Carlisle, KKR, and JCTA has blocked transparency since 2016. I got the smoking gun. I gave it to PBS Frontline. They couldn't believe that a union, an association, would not back transparency of its members' pension investments. I have that. It was an action that was put out by JCTA. It's unbelievable.
Unless you're just really tightly trying to control how the money flows and, making sure that you have 10 of the 12 seats that you appoint and then rig the election. I'm sorry, did I say that word? Control the election for the remaining 2 seats so that people can't even feel confident that the person who won truly won. And then people like Jason Nemus who do everything wrong and still get to keep their endorsement. It just really feels like someone else is pulling all of these strings, controlling all of these puppet strings. And then you have Antonia Lindauer, one of the 4 people who is on the committee for the BSK, overseeing the election process. And her dad was the former PVA, and I believe he's been in trouble for some things and probably has ties to, on the Democratic side, ties to how money and power and influence in these elected seats play out. And so there's also probably some power struggles between the Democrats and the GOP trying to make sure that money still continues to flow to the candidates of their whims. And it just really looks like it's controlled on purpose, and that the reasons for this lack of transparency and lack of advocacy is because someone has been compromised. I can't think of any other way to say it.
Can I ask,
Yes.
one thing that's come up on the national level with regard to environmental justice and how it overlaps with racial justice is to demand or have the students demand that the teacher investments fall into environmentally safe categories.
Yep.
Way to break through the wall that's been built.
Can you make that as a motion like Kumar was saying? Could that be a PR motion?
I would like to I promise not to make this long, super short, to give you an example of something like that out of California. Greg knows this as well and can probably take over and do better than I would have. And that is in California, the teachers union there is called CalPERS. Like the teachers union and the state employees are all in one big happy fund. And they are, teachers and students are moving to have their money pulled from fossil fuels and
Yep.
to go totally green. Can you help me with this, Greg, since you are
You're right,
better at
Yvonne.
this?
You're right.
Well, that's what
Sorry,
I'm
Greg.
talking about. I mean, so how do we write that I think that's the way we get through this
So,
wall.
I mean, that's
with-
one issue, environment, but I'm just saying it could be anything. We shouldn't be putting money into armaments, guns.
Prison.
I mean, there's a big, long list.
Well, I know, but I don't want to dilute the message.
Sure, but I'm just saying, you want your one thing, but I'm just saying it doesn't have to be green. It can be, we don't.
Prison, certainly. I mean, they keep taking 3rd grade reading scores and turning that into prison manufacturing. That has got to be at the forefront of our anybody teacher with the conscience, and it gets lost in the shuffle as it is currently, for sure. I am not much on resolutions, but I can draft something and I can reach out to Toby, see what he could do to assist on that. But environmental friendly
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
investment, non-prison building investment.
Anti-racist? Can you say anti-racist and they know what you mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, make that argument that
I think we need to
environment-friendly
think
is
about anti-racist.
well,
Because if you ask Jim Jordan, he'll tell you he's an anti-racist. I think we need this tightly defined.
Sounds good.
Well, you're over my head on that one. I don't know his name, but
Oh, he's
it's
a Trump toady out of Ohio.
tippy-toeing going on.
Yeah, during the impeachment hearings, Jordan was just out there, you know, defending Trump up and down. Man is an angel, an angel. And here we are holding a congressional hearing on this angel who has come down from the heavens. That's Jim Jordan. He's from Ohio.
He's awful. And you know, cities with a lot of black people, they cheat in voting. Really?
By
That sounds kind of
definition.
racist to me, but okay.
So, the last thing on our agenda is the thing that Greg asked to add, community feedback for human and civil rights committee. Is that what you talked
Yes.
with Melanie about?
Hardly qualify as community at this point.
Well, we
More
can,
family, but
Right.
Randy's community. So I've been tasked with overseeing racial justice events. We have 3 of them coming out of the human and civil rights group. We did the last one largely around NTI and freedom hubs and what do we need to do to connect to our students, and with one breakout group being police-free schools, which seem to drop the potential participant number from 150 to 40 because it's just nothing anybody wants to talk about in this town. But we're going to have that battle statewide soon. But the categories would be Black history and focusing curriculum on the reality of America for a lot of Americans as we define them. Ending the pipeline to school, prison, or pipeline to prison school system, pensions, restorative practices, and trauma-informed care, and what roles do teacher unions need to play in demanding a better future and or amplifying student solutions to community problems. So of those 5 that I listed, what would be your top 2, Randy? Yvonne and Gabe don't count for once. Oh, you're on.
One note, Randy, I don't think you need to ask me.
What was your name?
Randy, you slay me.
One note, Randy.
So pensions, you'd be on pensions. Is that what I'm hearing?
We got to do something about this governance of JCTA. You got to change or have some rotation in there. That would be my main thing. There has to be some new blood occasionally. You get a bad leader, you get a good leader, whatever, but it's got to rotate.
So how would you phrase that? JCTA rotation of leadership?
Yeah, return of term limits. Term limits, which we used to have. I don't mean to keep repeating myself.
Which they have for every other board position.
Yeah.
The vice president has 2 terms and gone. The treasurer, 2 terms and gone. The secretary, 2 terms and gone.
Well, I think it's the same. Yeah. We see it at the national level and what that does for us, and it's trouble. And it's a shame to see, 30 years of controlling the pipeline and nobody else wants to stand up and speak truth.
And
even
underlying that, I think, is the pension problem. I think that there would have been firmer addressing this pension problem, and also not this dictatorial control of BSK, if there's simply a change in personnel, every 3, 5, 6 years, whatever. But we used to have those and they were eliminated. And now we see the problems that we have with that kind of, I think it's a flaw in the governance, and we did it to ourselves.
And the whole idea of BSK being 10 appointed, holy cow, and 2 elected.
I know. If you were telling this story to
That's
someone,
fluff. That's just,
you'd go, no. Wait,
oh,
are you sure you understand
there's
what's going
community
on?
input.
That can't be right.
There's community input because we allow 2 of them to be elected. They get
It's like, really?
funny. What's going on?
And he doesn't want Kenyatta because he knows she'll push back more than Natalie would. So I think Brent and I think
Umar and
Brent-
Natalie have their own ways. I think they speak truth from the heart, and but you're probably right on that. Kenyatta's going to be more fiery than Natalie, but why don't we need them both? We really do need them both.
And that's not a knock on Natalie. Natalie has been earning her way. She's been doing everything Brent has told her she needed to do. But if that's the case, why didn't he appoint her and use one of those seats instead of making her run for it? Like, to me, he's just putting ridiculous, impossible hurdles in front of her. And that's more tools of white supremacy. You know, moving the goalpost is another tool.
Well, and you know, it's like gerrymandering. The few African Americans they have are on like 4 different boards. Why? We can't let that many black people into the building? I mean, what the hell? What's up with that?
Can I put the 5-minute warning on this call? Go for a long time, but
Sorry.
absolutely. I mean, that's the concern. But there's a lot of strong black leaders out there in JCTA. I was talking with Gay earlier. Just because Kenyatta's not in a position to run doesn't mean we don't have 20 fantastic black female candidates to get behind.
Well,
run for whatever.
yeah, I mean, no doubt, no doubt. But it is also important that people know the history because it's easy to be bamboozled. It's easy to be misled. It's easy for Brent to get up there and go, oh, no, we do it this way. So, you know, you have to be able to say, no, here's 3 examples of how you didn't do it this way. And so it has to be somebody that's been paying attention for a little bit.
We've never had a problem in our elections. Okay. We had a problem with this one. Okay. Previous elections show Norton Elementary voting at 200%. But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you like the play? Sorry, I'll stop being a bitch now.
I'd like to answer Greg's question and echo Randy's answer and broaden it. And what I would like to say is we need all third-party organizations that have any influence over money, teachers, or students, or I should say employees or students, and their families need to be good stewards of the trust that they've been given. And that the same situation that we are witnessing with the BSK elections happened with PTA last year. And I spoke at a board meeting last year telling the board that we had witnessed emergency meetings so they could change the bylaws. We witnessed pitting candidates against each other instead of the positions they applied to run for, so that there were less chances that they could actually get rid of the incumbents. Oppressing the access to the vote, like all of these things and then some, we just went through for the parent groups a year ago. So I feel like PTA, like the rules that we're stating don't just apply to JCTA. Term limits should be for all organizations that are accessing these resources and these, you know, channels of communication. I believe they should be held to, and maybe it should be voluntary. You know, let an organization self-comply with some standards. and let that be an indicator. If you're not willing to comply with these standards, you can still have access to our schools, but we're going to look at you differently because you're not a five-star organization that has transparent, open records. Just like, I feel like if you're dealing with the district, you should be subject to open records requests just like the district is. I don't like this idea that, in fact, I don't really like the idea that our board members and our employees are using Gmail accounts instead of keeping all of their emails in district supported tools. But then on top of that, I've made open records requests for emails that were deleted, and the district said, "Oh, that doesn't exist." So now you can, by the way, guys, just delete your emails if you don't want anybody getting access to them, because apparently that's a thing. There's just.
Gay, how can I take my history of African American slavery course? I mean, I've just been doing it out of Gmail, and we're developing reparation plans, but I don't know. I don't know if I completely agree with you that all my emails need to be out of the email account. I think there's.
I got an email from the bookkeeper at Shawnee, and she uses shawneebookkeeper@gmail.com, and I got a problem with that. And I love her to death, but I just don't think that bookkeepers should be emailing business-related emails.
Okay. If it's district-related information.
Yeah, no, you can still have your own Gmail for other things outside of it. But, I mean, nobody's text messages are accessible through open records. And they should be. Like, we need to be making broader demands on entities that have this kind of influence, especially JCTA and PTA, because they're the biggest ones, but they should set the gold standard and lead by example.
Let's have the conversation before I get a subpoena for all my text messages. Anyway, but I hear what you're saying. Especially around
elections and things like that.
Transparency. There has to be some transparency, and there has to be some grace with that transparency, frankly, if we're to move forward effectively.
Especially, I mean, that's why if you're complying voluntarily, then there would be more grace, I would think, also. But PTA also is who runs the site-based decision-making council elections. And so we see a lot of favoritism and favors. They like that principal, so they're going to help that principal get a certain person put in a position so that they can be the ones coming to the meetings. And then it ends up shutting out the troublemakers. That's what it ends up being. Anybody who actually truly has a valid concern, especially around a race issue, they're treated like the enemy. They're written up like this teacher I told you about, and demoted like the other teacher that has been on some of our calls, simply for bringing up harms that are happening to the Black students in their schools. And I don't know how we change that culture without just ripping that Band-Aid off and saying this is not acceptable and it cannot continue to happen.
Am I still being recorded?
Yes.
I think a big issue is if you fire 2 in one building, then you're going to set the precedent that 2 to 5 need to be fired in every building, and we're not in a position to hire that much new staff. I think that that's the reality of where the rubber meets the road for me.
I don't think they need to be fired. I think they need to have some serious come to Jesus meetings and visibility on them so that others know. It's really like an intervention. No, sister, what you're saying and doing is racist, and you can't just sit there and go, I'm not racist, and have everybody leave you alone. The harm that you're causing when you do these things is X, and all of us are here to help you. Feel free to, talk to us if you're not sure why or how, but there is a right and a wrong here. We can't agree to disagree on this stuff. We can't.
That's where it gets sticky. And how do we, I don't disagree. I think we need an outside the building restorative justice group, which I'm looking at proposing a showing up for racial justice teacher group, because at some point it doesn't fall on African American teachers to teach.
Right.
Just
It's so traumatizing.
that's wrong.
It is so traumatizing.
Not right to put that on there.
But you know,
And
Greg,
at the same point, to have the real conversations to move people from what they might see as completely justified racist opinions to an anti-racist position, you've got to challenge them, and I think Surge could play a big role on that. Sorry to.
that's true, but we have a model for this. You know, when people's test scores aren't good, which doesn't matter crap, but the model is they take you aside, they have somebody work with you, you're not a bad person, but you need to do better. I think we have a model for this. You cannot call children of color monkeys. That's not good.
More
Which is
stories.
something that really happened.
Holy
I
cow.
wish I were making it up.
I mean,
And that teacher kept her job, and the one who reported it is who got demoted.
but we need to. So maybe you and I, Yvonne, need to talk about how do we write that up as a written proposal, because we've got to have something moving forward along those lines because there's just so many people in place, and Gay, you and I talked about the of Karen. If you call out a Karen, then you got 5 Karens, 5 swarm Karens
Right.
defending that teacher for being a great person and
Exactly.
racist and
But I
And
don't.
aren't those kids kind of monkey-like? I'm just saying. I mean, they start coming up. They don't say that, but it's pretty close. I'm like, really? You're defending this person? What is wrong with you?
So I don't think that this is I don't think that condition has to be permanent. And if we approach the people who are committing those violations, for lack of a better word, enough times in enough ways, and help them recognize that they need a growth mindset to ask the question, how could I do better? Eventually they'll come around. I really do think so. I mean, I was them once. So if I can come around, I think anybody can. And so,
but safe discussion groups, safe spaces,
yeah, sure. I mean, that would
necessarily
be,
have to be in front of all their
no, hold on.
colleagues in the building.
Not at first, not at first, but frankly, where I am in this space, I am on display. I've gotten to the point where you can tell me anything. I'll take it under advisement. If it's difficult, I might ask for a meeting offline or whatever, but I'm coming back. I'm coming back. No matter what you say to me, if you tell me I've done something that's harmful or racist or whatever, I'm not going to go, I can't be a racist. I'm going to take it under advisement. I'm going to process it. I'm going to ask friends. I am willing to be on public display for these lessons, and I know others are too. So not everybody will day one, but it's a process. And if they're not willing to have these conversations in private and grow, then sometimes the next step is in public, or sometimes after 2 or 3 or 4 times, maybe we should just realize this is not a good, education is just not a good place for these people. There are people who, if they cannot recognize that their beliefs are harmful to some of their students and their actions are harmful to some of their students, they shouldn't be in education. And we have to also recognize that by addressing those who should not be in education, we are making it safer for our Black educators and for those who we say we're having trouble recruiting. Well, that's a good reason why we're having trouble recruiting, is because we haven't created that safe space. We haven't pushed back enough. And so, yes, we will lose some teachers by being stricter about racial justice, but I think it'll pay for itself in the long run by allowing us to recruit and retain and create quality experiences for our Black teachers. So I don't think not addressing it because of what we're afraid of is the right answer. I think we do it and then deal with
That's
it.
not what I was trying to suggest either. I'm
And I-
just trying to suggest we need to put it in writing how we step forward.
I agree. And I'd love to be part of that with LSurge or whoever else is doing it because I have some ideas too. I've been working on.
I would love to be part of an LSurge educators thing. Our acronym is going to be long and convoluted. That's okay.
Well, and
As long as it creates a space for people to have the discussion that needs to be had, I'm
Well,
okay.
You know, hey, long and convoluted is okay.
this emergency alliance meeting that we're about to head into is a lot of the same stuff.
Was that tonight? Holy cow.
Yeah, it's in 5 minutes.
Oh,
So-
geez, oh,
Well,
Pete.
give me 5 then. We need to wrap it up.
We gotta wrap it up. What I was saying is it's transferable. Whatever we do here could work here too. We have to hold people accountable. We have to have rules on engagement, and LSurge could help in both cases, I think.
I think so too. We'll see. We'll see how it plugs in and,
All right.
and develops.
All right.
Please
Thanks,
call
everybody.
on me on whatever you need for the LSurge doodle.
You know how it is. Everything's going in so many directions. I don't know where anything is, but I do feel like LSurge has built a discussion platform that could really benefit some white teachers that need the conversation.
Yep.
That
And the
would be
teachable moment-
so excellent.
the teachable
Let me know
moment-
how I can help because that is so important.
Agreed. Okay.
All right, I know we got to run, guys. Thanks, everybody. There's a winter coat drive for PTO going on now. Take your coats that you don't need to one of the 4 Highland Cleaners that has the lobby open.
Nice to meet you, Randy.
Okay, yeah. Bye, Greg.
Bye,
Nice to meet you
guys.
too.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Vaughn. Bye, Gay. Thanks for the meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. See you next week.
Yes,
See
for
you
sure.
next week. Now I got to be smarter than